Commander Zarathek stepped off the transport ship and immediately wrinkled her nose. The air on Kepler 442c tasted of metal and despair. Red dust covered everything, and the mining colony looked like it was falling apart. She had been sent here to fix a problem that no one else wanted to handle. The problem was humans. Zarathek walked through the main corridor of the prison facility. Emergency lights blinked red, and she could hear shouting from somewhere deep inside the building. The previous administrator had died 3 weeks ago in what the reports called a mining accident. She suspected the humans had killed him. "Commander, welcome to hell," said Lieutenant Kexval, her second in command. He was young for a Veltar officer, with bright green scales and nervous energy. "The automated systems are barely keeping the prisoners contained." "How many humans are we dealing with?" Zarathek asked, checking her datapad. 237 prisoners. Most are former soldiers from Earth's failed rebellion. Their leader is a human named Marcus Chen. He used to be some kind of medical worker before the war. Zarathek nodded. She had read the files during the long journey here. Earth had tried to break free from the Galactic Consortium 6 months ago. The rebellion lasted only 3 weeks before being crushed. The surviving humans were scattered across prison colonies like this one, forced to work in dangerous mines as punishment. "Show me to this Marcus Chen," she said. The lieutenant led her through several security doors. Each one required her command codes to open. The automated defense systems tracked their movement with red sensor beams. Finally, they reached a large room where human prisoners sat at metal tables, eating what looked like gray paste. The humans stopped talking when Zarathek entered. They stared at her with expressions she could not read. Some looked angry. Others seemed afraid. A few appeared completely broken, staring at nothing. "That one," Lieutenant Kexval pointed to a human sitting alone at the back of the room. "That is Marcus Chen." Zarathek studied the human leader. He was shorter than she expected, with dark hair and tired eyes. His clothes were dirty and torn, but he sat straight like he still had pride. When he noticed her looking, he met her gaze without flinching. She walked over to his table. The other humans watched, but stayed quiet. "I am Commander Zarathek," she said in Standard Galactic. "I am now in charge of this facility." Marcus Chen looked up at her. "Congratulations," he said in the same language, though his accent was thick. "I hope you live longer than the last one. Thanks for watching." End quote. The insult was clear. Zarathek felt her anger rise, but she controlled it. "You will show proper respect, prisoner." "Respect is earned, not demanded," Marcus replied calmly. Before Zarathek could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red lights flashed, and a computer voice announced in Standard Galactic, "Emergency in Mining Sector 7. Medical assistance required immediately." Lieutenant Kexval spoke into his communicator, then looked worried. "Commander, there has been an accident. A support beam collapsed in the deep mines. One of our guards is badly injured." Zarathek cursed under her breath. "Send a medical team immediately. The automated medical systems cannot handle this type of injury. The guard has internal bleeding and broken bones. Without proper treatment, he will die within the hour." The humans at the nearby tables had been listening. Some whispered to each other in their strange Earth language. Marcus Chen stood up slowly. "I can help," he said. Zarathek stared at him. "You?" "I was a trauma surgeon before the war. I have experience with these kinds of injuries." "Why would you help us?" she demanded. "We are your captors, your enemies." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Because someone is dying, and I can prevent that." Zarathek did not trust him. This had to be some kind of trick. Humans were known for being sneaky and violent. Every report she had read said they could not be trusted. But the injured guard would die without help, and the automated systems were useless. "If you try anything suspicious, I will kill you myself, she warned. Marcus nodded. Understood. They hurried through the facility to Mining Sector 7. The injured guard, a young Veltar named Tex Ron, lay trapped under twisted metal beams. His green blood pooled on the rocky ground. His breathing was shallow and fast. The beam crushed his chest cavity, Lieutenant Kex Val reported. We cannot move him without making the injuries worse. Marcus knelt beside the wounded guard and examined him carefully. His hands moved with practiced skill, checking for broken bones and internal damage. I need clean cloths, metal tools that can be sterilized, and something to use as antiseptic. We do not have medical supplies here, Zarathek said. Then we improvise. Marcus looked around and started gathering materials. He tore clean strips from his own shirt. He found metal tools used for mining and heated them with a plasma torch to kill germs. He even used mining chemicals as antiseptic, somehow knowing which ones were safe. For the next 2 hours, Zarathek watched as Marcus worked to save the guard's life. He stopped the bleeding, set broken bones, and carefully removed metal fragments from damaged organs. His hands never shook, even when the injured guard cried out in pain. The lung is punctured, Marcus explained as he worked. I need to create a seal, or he will suffocate. Using a piece of plastic sheeting and mining adhesive, he created a patch that allowed the lung to heal properly. When it was over, Guard Texron was breathing normally. His color had returned from gray to healthy green. Marcus had saved his life using nothing but scraps and skill. Why? Zarathek asked, as Marcus washed the blood from his hands. Why what? Why did you save him? He would have beaten you without question. If ordered. We all would have. Marcus looked at her with those tired eyes. Because that is what doctors do. We save lives. It does not matter whose life it is. As they walked back to the prison area, Zarathek felt confused. Everything she had been taught about humans said they were selfish and cruel. But Marcus Chen had risked his own safety to save the life of his enemy. He had asked for nothing in return. That night, she sat in her quarters reviewing prisoner files. But she kept thinking about the way Marcus had worked to save Guard Texron. His hands had been steady and sure. His face had shown only concentration and determination to preserve life. Maybe this one human was different from the others. Maybe he was trying to trick her into trusting him. Or maybe everything she had been told about humans was wrong. She decided to watch Marcus Chen more carefully. If he was planning something, she would discover it. But deep down, for the first time since arriving at this place, Zarathek began to wonder if the real problem was not the humans at all. It was what everyone else believed about them. 3 days passed since Marcus Chen saved Guard Texron's life. Zarathek watched the human doctor carefully, looking for signs of trickery or hidden plans. But Marcus seemed to spend his time quietly helping other prisoners with small injuries and illnesses. Early morning alarms woke everyone in the facility. But these were not accident alarms. These were the emergency warnings that meant everyone might die. Commander! Lieutenant Kex Val ran into her quarters without knocking. His green scales were pale with fear. The air recycling system is failing. Someone has damaged the main processors. Zarathek dressed quickly and followed him to the control center. The main screen showed red warning lights across all life support systems. Oxygen levels were dropping, slowly but steadily, throughout the facility. How long do we have? She asked. At current rates, maybe 6 days before the air becomes too thin to breathe. The automated repair systems cannot fix this level of damage. What about calling for help from Consortium Command? The nearest repair ship is 3 weeks away, far too long. Zarathek studied the damage reports. Someone had used explosives to destroy critical parts of the air recycling system. But who? And why would they risk killing everyone, including themselves? Bring me the security recordings from the past week, she ordered. While Lieutenant Kexval worked on the recordings, Zarathek walked to the damaged air processing center. The destruction was worse than the reports had shown. Twisted metal and burned circuits were scattered everywhere. It would take expert engineers weeks to rebuild this equipment. She found Marcus Chen standing near the damaged machinery, studying the destruction with intense focus. "What are you doing here, prisoner?" she demanded. Lieutenant Kexval told the humans what happened, Marcus said, without looking away from the wreckage. "We will all die together if this cannot be fixed. The repair is beyond human capability," Zarathek said coldly. Marcus finally turned to face her. "Maybe. But I was an engineer before I became a doctor. I helped design the life support systems for Earth's first colony ships." Zarathek felt surprised. The prisoner files had mentioned his medical background, but nothing about engineering experience. "Even if that is true, we do not have the parts needed for repair." "No. But we might be able to build temporary systems using mining equipment." Marcus pointed to different sections of the damage. "The basic principles are the same. Move air, filter toxins, add oxygen. The methods can be changed. And what do you want in return for this help?" Zarathek asked suspiciously. Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Better food for the prisoners, real medical supplies, and 2 hours of recreation time per day, instead of constant work. You would bargain for the lives of your guards?" "I would bargain for better treatment of people under my protection," Marcus replied firmly. "But even if you refuse, I will still try to fix this. Everyone deserves to live." Zarathek did not trust his motives, but she had no choice. "Show me what you need." For the next 2 days, Marcus worked with a small team of Veltar engineers to create makeshift air processors. Zarathek watched as he explained complex ideas using simple words and drawings. The young engineers seemed fascinated by his different approach to solving problems. "Human engineering is very strange," Engineer Paltek told her. "But it works when our standard methods fail." "See." "How so?" "Humans think about problems differently. We follow exact procedures and protocols. Humans adapt and improvise. They find solutions we never considered." Marcus worked 18 hours each day, barely stopping to eat or rest. He crawled through dangerous maintenance tunnels to install new air filters. He rewired control systems while breathing toxic fumes. His hands became cut and burned from handling sharp metal and hot circuits. On the third morning, Zarathek found Marcus unconscious in Processing Bay 4. Gas detectors showed dangerous levels of poisonous chemicals in the air. He had been working alone in an area that was supposed to be sealed off. "Medical emergency," she called into her communicator as she dragged Marcus to safety. When Marcus woke up in the medical bay an hour later, his first words were, "Is the air processor working?" "Yes," Zarathek said. "But you nearly died installing the final connections. Why did you not wait for protective equipment?" Marcus tried to sit up but was too weak. "There was no time. The chemical levels were rising too fast. If we waited another day, the backup systems would have failed completely. You risked your life for your captors." "I risked my life for everyone in this facility," Marcus corrected. "Veltar, human. It does not matter. We all need to breathe." Later that day, Zarathek visited the main processing center. The jury-rigged air systems were working perfectly. The process in S. The young Veltar engineers were still studying Marcus's modifications with amazement. "Commander," Engineer Paltek called her over. "Look at this design. It is more efficient than our standard systems. The human found ways to improve airflow that our textbooks never taught us." "How is that possible?" Zarathek asked. "I asked Dr. Chen the same question. He said humans learn by trying things that should not work. Sometimes, they discover better solutions by accident." That evening, Zarathek sat in her quarters reviewing the security recordings. She finally found evidence of who had sabotaged the air systems. The recordings clearly showed a figure in Veltar uniform planting explosives in the processing center. But the figure's identity was blocked by static at crucial moments. Someone with high-level access codes had edited the recordings to hide their face. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. "Enter," she called. Marcus Chen walked in, looking much healthier after a day of rest. "Commander, I wanted to thank you for saving my life this morning." "Marcus, you were injured helping us. It was my duty." "Still, thank you." Marcus hesitated, then continued. "I also wanted to tell you something important. I think I know who damaged the air systems." Zarathek leaned forward. "Who?" "I am not completely certain. But I noticed someone acting strangely before the sabotage. Someone with access to restricted areas." Marcus looked uncomfortable. "The problem is, accusing this person could cause you serious political trouble." "Tell me anyway." "I think it was Lieutenant Kexval." Zarathek felt cold shock. "Her second in command? That is impossible. Why would he endanger his own life? Maybe he planned to escape before the air ran out. Maybe he wanted to frame the human prisoners for the sabotage. I do not know his reasons." Marcus met her eyes. "But I saw him near the processing center the night before the explosion. He was carrying a bag of equipment. Why are you telling me this? You could stay silent and let me trust the wrong person." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Because you have treated us fairly since arriving here. You could have ignored our agreement about better food and medical care, but you kept your word. Honor should be answered with honor." After Marcus left, Zarathek sat alone thinking about everything that had happened. The human had risked his life to save everyone in the facility. He had taught her engineers new methods that worked better than old ones. And now he had given her information that could save her career and her life, even though staying silent would have been safer for him. She had been trained to believe humans were selfish and violent. But Marcus Chen kept proving the opposite. Every day, he gave her one more reason to question everything she had been taught. Maybe the problem was not human nature at all. Maybe the problem was what everyone else chose to believe about humans. Tomorrow, she would investigate Lieutenant Kexval more carefully. But tonight, she would think about how wrong the consortium reports might be about an entire species. And she would wonder what other lies she had been told. 2 weeks had passed since the air system crisis. Zarathek had quietly investigated Lieutenant Kexval and discovered evidence of his betrayal. He was secretly part of a Veltar separatist group that wanted to break away from the consortium. The sabotage was meant to discredit human prisoners and create chaos. She had not yet decided how to handle this information when a much bigger problem arrived. "Commander," Communications Officer Yeldar rushed into her office. "Long-range sensors are detecting approaching ships. Multiple vessels on attack course." Zarathek immediately went to the command center. The main screen showed red dots moving toward their position. "How many ships?" 7 vessels. Configuration matches Kethmoran raiders." Everyone in the room became very quiet. Kethmoran raiders were space pirates, known for their cruelty. They took no prisoners and left no survivors. They attacked mining colonies for valuable metals and equipment. "How long until they arrive?" Zarathek asked. 6 hours, maybe 7. "Send an emergency message to Consortium Command. Request immediate military support." "Already sent, Commander. The nearest battle fleet is 4 days away." Zarathek felt her heart sink. The mining colony had no real weapons, only basic defensive shields and small security weapons meant for controlling prisoners. Against 7 raider ships, they had no chance. "Begin evacuation procedures," she ordered. "Commander, the transport ships cannot carry everyone. We have 300 people in this facility. The evacuation ships can only take 100. This meant 200 people would be left behind to die." Zarathek stared at the approaching red dots on the screen. "In 6 hours, everyone remaining at the colony would be killed." "Commander," a familiar voice said behind her. She turned to see Marcus Chen standing at the entrance to the command center. 2 guards were with him, but they looked uncertain. "How did you get here?" she demanded. "I told the guards I had important information about defending the colony." They decided to listen instead of shooting. "We cannot defend this place. We must evacuate as many people as possible." Marcus walked to the tactical display. "May I?" When Zarathek nodded, he studied the colony layout and defensive systems. "Actually, we might be able to fight back." "With what weapons?" Lieutenant Kexval asked mockingly. "Mining tools?" "Exactly," Marcus said seriously. "The mining equipment here is very powerful. Plasma drills, explosive charges, heavy machinery. With some modifications, we could create defensive weapons." Zarathek looked at the display again. "Even if that worked, we do not have trained soldiers to operate such weapons. You have 200 human prisoners who fought in a war," Marcus pointed out. "We know how to fight. And we know we will die anyway if the raiders succeed." "Why would the humans help us?" Lieutenant Kexval demanded. "You should be happy to see us destroyed." Marcus looked directly at Zarathek. "Because some of you have shown us honor and fairness. Because there are innocent civilians here who do not deserve to die. And because fighting together is better than dying separately." For the next 4 hours, the colony transformed into a battlefield. Human prisoners worked alongside Veltar guards to modify mining equipment into weapons. Marcus organized mixed teams, pairing humans with Veltar workers who understood the technical systems. Zarathek watched in amazement as former enemies cooperated perfectly. The humans taught combat tactics while the Veltar provided technical knowledge. No one argued about old grudges or past battles. "Commander," Engineer Paltek called her over to one of the modified mining platforms. "Dr. Chen has designed a defensive grid using plasma drill arrays. If we can position them correctly, we can create overlapping fields of fire." "Will it work?" she asked. "The calculations are correct. But someone must manually control the power distribution during battle. The automated systems cannot handle the rapid changes needed." And SS. Marcus appeared beside them, covered in grease and metal dust. "I can handle the power control. The main distribution center is heavily shielded. I should be safe there." "I should be safe there." "Should be?" Zarathek asked. "The power loads will be extreme. If something goes wrong, the feedback could kill whoever is operating the controls." Marcus met her eyes calmly. "But someone has to do it." Before Zarathek could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the facility. The raiders had arrived. "All defensive teams to positions," she ordered over the communication system. The first attack came 30 minutes later. 3 Kethmoran ships approached the colony from different angles, testing the defenses. The modified mining weapons performed better than anyone had expected. Plasma drill beams cut through raider hull armor like it was paper. But the raiders quickly adapted. They began using hit-and-run tactics, striking fast and retreating before the defensive weapons could target them effectively. "We need more power to the forward plasma arrays," Engineer Paltek called out. "Power redirected," Marcus's voice replied through the communication system. The battle continued for 2 hours. The defensive grid held, but barely. Several mining platforms were destroyed, and many defenders were wounded. The raiders seemed to have unlimited ammunition and patience. During a brief pause in the fighting, Zarathek made her way to the main distribution center. She found Marcus working frantically at the control panels. Sparks flew from overloaded circuits, and warning lights flashed red throughout the room. "How much longer can the systems handle this?" she asked. "Maybe another hour," Marcus said without stopping his work. "The power couplings are burning out. I can keep rerouting, but eventually we will run out of backup systems." "What happens then?" "The defensive grid fails, and the raiders break through." Marcus looked up at her with tired eyes. "Unless you can get everyone to the evacuation ships first. What about you? Someone needs to maintain power until the last moment. And according to consortium law, human prisoners are expendable resources." His voice was bitter, but determined. I understand the mathematics of this situation. Zarathek felt something break inside her chest. This human was prepared to die so others could live. He expected nothing but contempt from those he was protecting. No, she said firmly. Commander, I will not abandon you here. We find another solution, or we all stay together. Marcus stared at her in surprise. Why? Because you are not expendable. No one is. Zarathek moved to the backup control station. Show me how to operate these systems. See. Show me how to operate these systems. You do not understand. If we both stay and something goes wrong with the power grid, everyone dies. Then we make sure nothing goes wrong. For the next 20 minutes, Marcus taught Zarathek how to control the power distribution network. She learned which circuits could be overloaded safely and which ones would cause catastrophic failure. Her hands shook at first, but Marcus was a patient teacher. When the raiders launched their final attack, both Zarathek and Marcus worked together at the control stations. She handled the primary power routing while he managed the backup systems and emergency overrides. The plan worked perfectly. The defensive grid held against the heaviest assault. Plasma beams destroyed 2 raider ships completely, and the remaining 5 were badly damaged. Faced with stronger resistance than expected, the surviving raiders retreated into deep space. Victory alarms sounded throughout the colony. People cheered over the communication system. They had won against impossible odds. But Zarathek barely heard the celebration. She was watching Marcus Chen, who had collapsed from exhaustion at his control station. This human had been prepared to sacrifice his life for people who considered him a worthless prisoner. And he had done it without asking for anything in return. As medical teams carried Marcus to the infirmary, Zarathek realized something important had changed inside her. She no longer saw a human prisoner when she looked at Marcus Chen. She saw a person worthy of respect and admiration. The question now was what to do with that knowledge. 3 days after the battle with the Keth Moran raiders, Consortium Command arrived at the mining colony. A full investigation team came with them, led by Inspector General Vorthek, a senior Veltar official, known for being very strict and thorough. Zarathek waited nervously in her office. The battle had been won, but she had broken many regulations by arming human prisoners and allowing them to fight alongside Veltar forces. She expected punishment, possibly even removal from command. Commander Zarathek, Inspector General Vorthek, entered without knocking. He was an old Veltar with dark green scales and cold eyes. I have read your preliminary report. Very interesting reading. Sir, I can explain. You armed prisoners of war against direct consortium orders. You allowed humans access to restricted areas and sensitive equipment. You placed colony defense in the hands of known rebels. Vorthek sat down across from her desk. These are serious violations. Yes, sir. I accept full responsibility. However, Vorthek continued, you also saved the lives of 300 people and captured 2 intact raider ships. The technical innovations used in the defense are being studied by consortium engineers. Your actions, while irregular, achieved outstanding results. Zarathek felt confused. Sir, we are more interested in how you achieved this success than in punishing rule violations. Tell me about the human leader, Dr. Marcus Chen. For the next hour, Zarathek described everything Marcus had done since her arrival. The medical treatment of Guard Techs Ron, the repair of the life support systems, the organization of the defense against raiders. She tried to be factual and objective. Fascinating, Vorthek said when she finished. This contradicts everything in our intelligence files about human behavior. Our reports say humans are selfish, violent, and untrustworthy. I believed those reports too, sir. But daily observation shows different behavior patterns. I want to interview this human myself. They found Marcus in the medical bay, helping treat wounded defenders from the recent battle. He was teaching a young Veltar medic how to treat plasma burns using improvised materials. Dr. Chen, Inspector General Vorthek called. I need to speak with you. Marcus finished bandaging a patient before turning around. Of course. How can I help you? You can start by explaining why you chose to help your captors instead of letting them die. Marcus was quiet for a moment, considering the question. Because letting people die when I can help them would make me something I do not want to be. Even though these people have imprisoned you and your fellow humans? Even then. Why? Because being angry and hateful takes too much energy, Marcus said simply. I would rather spend that energy helping people and solving problems. Inspector General Vorthek made notes on his datapad. Tell me about the defense preparations. How did you convince human prisoners to fight for their captors? I did not convince them to fight for captors, Marcus corrected. I convinced them to fight for themselves, for innocent people, and for the chance to prove that humans can be trusted with responsibility. And you believed this was possible? Marcus looked directly at Zarathek. Commander Zarathek treated us with fairness and respect. She kept her agreements about food and medical care. She listened to our ideas and used them when they were good. When people treat you with honor, you want to return that honor. Vorthek continued asking questions for another hour. He asked about the technical modifications, the combat tactics, and the cooperation between humans and Veltar workers. Marcus answered everything honestly and completely. One final question, Vorthek said. What do you want in return for your assistance during the crisis? Nothing for myself, Marcus replied immediately. But I hope this proves that humans can be valuable allies, instead of just prisoners. After the interview, Vorthek returned to Zarathek's office with a thick folder of documents. Commander, we have discovered something very interesting during our investigation. He spread security recordings across her desk. The original sabotage of the life support system was not done by human prisoners. Zarathek leaned forward to study the images. The recordings were much clearer than the ones she had seen before. Lieutenant Kexval planted the explosives, Vorthek continued. He is part of a Veltar separatist group that wanted to create an incident that would justify harsh treatment of human prisoners. You have proof? Complete evidence. Kexval has confessed and named his accomplices. The separatists planned to let the life support fail, then claim the humans had sabotaged it as revenge against their guards. Zarathek felt sick, but why risk killing everyone? They planned to evacuate key personnel at the last moment, leaving only humans and unimportant guards to die. The deaths would have been blamed on human violence, justifying much worse treatment of all human prisoners throughout the consortium. Did Marcus know about this? That is the most interesting part. Vorthek pulled out another document. Dr. Chen suspected Lieutenant Kexval was involved in the sabotage, but he never accused him directly. End quote. When we asked why, he said making that accusation could have created political problems for you. Zarathek stared at the report. He protected my reputation? Even more than that. When consortium investigators arrived, Dr. Chen could have told them about Lieutenant Kexval's suspicious behavior. Instead, he gave you credit for the successful defense and praised the conduct of your guards during the battle. Why would he do that? According to his statement, he believed you were an honorable commander who deserved loyalty in return for fair treatment. Zarathek sat back in her chair, overwhelmed by this information. Marcus had suspected the truth about the sabotage, but had kept quiet to protect her career. He had praised her leadership to investigators when he could have caused her serious trouble. Sir, what happens to Dr. Chen and the other human prisoners now? Inspector General Vorthek smiled for the first time since arriving. That is why I am really here. Commander. Based on this incident, Consortium Command is creating a new program. Selected human prisoners will be offered the chance to work as technical specialists and engineers throughout the consortium. And Dr. Chen? Dr. Chen is being offered a position as Chief of Interspecies Engineering for the mining colonies. He will also receive a Consortium Medal of Merit for his actions during the Raider attack. Zarathek felt amazed. A Medal of Merit? For a human? The first ever awarded to a member of his species. His technical innovations and leadership during the crisis have impressed many senior officials. That evening, Zarathek found Marcus sitting outside the medical bay, looking up at the stars through the dome windows. She sat down beside him. "You knew Lieutenant Kexval was responsible for the sabotage," she said. "It was not a question." "I suspected," Marcus replied, "but I could not prove it, and making accusations would have put you in a difficult position. You protected me. You treated us fairly. That deserved loyalty in return." "Even though we were your captors?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "You were my captors when I arrived here. But somewhere along the way, I started thinking of you as someone trying to do the right thing in a difficult situation." Zarathek thought about all the reports she had read about human nature, all the warnings about their violence and selfishness. None of those reports had mentioned humans like Marcus Chen. "I owe you an apology," she said. "For what?" "For believing you were something you are not, for judging your entire species based on propaganda and lies." Marcus smiled slightly. "People believe what they are taught until they learn something better. You were willing to learn. That makes you better than most." I. 4. As they sat together looking at the stars, Zarathek realized that everything had changed. She no longer saw humans as dangerous prisoners to be controlled. She saw them as people who deserved the same respect and opportunities as any other species. And tomorrow, she would start working to make sure the rest of the consortium learned the same lesson. 6 months later, Zarathek stood at the podium in the Grand Assembly Hall on the consortium capital world. Representatives from dozens of species filled the massive chamber, all gathered to witness an historic moment. "Today we recognize exceptional courage and innovation in the face of impossible odds," she announced to the assembly. "Dr. Marcus Chen, of Earth, please step forward." Marcus walked across the stage wearing a clean consortium engineering uniform instead of prisoner clothing. His hair was neat, and his face looked healthier than it had at the mining colony. But his eyes still held the same quiet determination that had impressed Zarathek from the beginning. "Dr. Chen," she continued, reading from the official citation, "for extraordinary service to the Galactic Consortium, for technical innovation that saved lives, and for leadership that brought together different species in common cause, you are awarded the Consortium Medal of Merit." The audience applauded as Zarathek placed the silver medal around Marcus's neck. It was the first time in consortium history that a human had received this honor. "Do you have any words for the assembly?" she asked. Marcus stepped to the microphone. "Thank you for this recognition. But I want to make something clear. I did not act alone during the crisis at Kepler 442c. Human prisoners and Veltar guards worked together as one team. The real achievement was learning to see past old prejudices and focus on what we could accomplish together." He paused and looked directly at Zarathek. "I also want to thank Commander Zarathek for having the courage to question what she had been taught about humans. Without her willingness to change her mind, none of this would have been possible." The applause was thunderous. Representatives who had never spoken to a human before stood to honor Marcus's words. After the ceremony, Zarathek and Marcus walked through the capital city gardens. The formal celebrations were over, but they both felt like they needed quiet time to talk. "How does it feel to be the most famous human in the galaxy?" Zarathek asked. Marcus laughed. "Strange. A year ago, I was a prisoner, expecting to die in a mining colony. Now I am supposed to help design engineering policies for the entire consortium. Any regrets?" "Only one." Marcus stopped walking and turned to face her. "When I was first offered this position, I almost refused." "Why?" "Because I did not want to leave the other human prisoners behind. It felt wrong to accept freedom and recognition while they remained in prison." Zarathek smiled. "That is exactly why you were the right choice for this job." They continued walking in comfortable silence until they reached a memorial garden dedicated to victims of war. Flowers from 100 worlds created patterns of incredible beauty and variety. "I have news about the new integration program," Zarathek said. "Consortium Command has approved the release of all non-violent human prisoners. They will be offered jobs throughout the galaxy as engineers, technicians, and specialists." Marcus stopped walking. "All of them?" "All of them." The success of our mixed teams at the mining colony convinced many officials that humans have valuable skills to offer. "What about the violent ones? The ones who committed real crimes during the war? They will be evaluated individually. Those who show genuine remorse and willingness to contribute positively will get second chances." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "You know, when I was captured after the Earth Rebellion, I thought my life was over. I expected to die in prison, forgotten by everyone. What changed your mind?" "You did. The way you listened when I had ideas. The way you kept your promises about better conditions for the prisoners. The way you treated us as people, instead of just criminals." Zarathek felt warmth in her chest. "You changed my mind too. Everything I was taught about humans was wrong." "Not everything," Marcus said honestly. "Some humans are violent and selfish, just like some members of every species. But most of us just want the chance to build something better than what we had before." They sat on a bench near a fountain that sparkled with reflected starlight from the city dome above. "I have been thinking about something," Zarathek said. "When we first met, you said respect had to be earned, not demanded. I remember. I think I understand now what you meant. Real respect comes from seeing someone's actions over time, not from their rank or species or anything else." "Yes, and it goes both ways. You earned my respect by treating us fairly when you could have been cruel. You earned my loyalty by keeping your word when you could have broken it." A messenger arrived with an urgent data pad for Marcus. He read it quickly, then looked up with excitement. "What is it?" Zarathek asked. "A proposal for the next phase of the integration program. They want to create mixed teams of humans and other species for dangerous missions that require creative problem-solving." "Like what?" "Disaster relief. First contact with new species. Exploration of unknown regions. Situations where having different perspectives and approaches could save lives." "And they want you to lead this program?" "They want us to lead it together," Marcus corrected. "You would be the military commander, and I would handle technical and civilian aspects." Zarathek felt surprised. "They want me to work with humans permanently?" "Your report on the mining colony crisis is required reading at the Consortium Command Academy now. You are considered the expert on human-alien cooperation." "I am not sure I am qualified for that," Marcus smiled. "A wise commander once told me that qualifications come from experience and good judgment, not from following old rules." As they walked back toward the government district, Zarathek thought about how much had changed since that first day at the mining colony. She had arrived expecting to control dangerous prisoners. Instead, she had learned to work with valuable allies. "Marcus," she said as they reached the transport station. "What?" "That first day, when you saved Guard Texron's life, I thought you were trying to manipulate me. I was looking for hidden motives and secret plans. I know. I could see the suspicion in your eyes. When did you realize I was starting to trust you?" Marcus thought for a moment. "When you refused to leave me behind during the Raider attack. When you said no one was expendable. That was when I knew you had stopped seeing me as just a human prisoner." "And when did you stop seeing me as just another captor?" "Much earlier than that. The day you kept your promise about better food and medical supplies for the prisoners. Most commanders would have forgotten or found excuses. You remembered and followed through." The transport arrived to take them back to their respective quarters. As they prepared to board, Marcus turned to Zarathek one last time. "Thank you," he said simply. For what now? For giving me one more reason every day to believe that understanding between species is possible. For showing me that honor and fairness exist even in the worst situations. Zarathek smiled. You were right about something else too. What? Some people really are irreplaceable. As the transport carried them through the city lights toward tomorrow's challenges, both Zarathek and Marcus knew that their real work was just beginning. But they also knew they would face it together, with the respect and trust they had earned from each other. The galaxy was full of different species who had been taught to fear and distrust each other. But if a Veltar commander and a human prisoner could become partners and friends, then perhaps there was hope for everyone else too. And that hope was worth fighting for.